It was a bitter, gray morning in early December when Elena Harper stepped into the small diner at the end of Willow Creek Road, holding her little girl's hand tightly. Her thin jacket was soaked with frost, her fingers trembling not just from the cold, but from hunger, loneliness, and exhaustion that had weighed down her heart for months. Her 4-year-old daughter, Nora, clung to her, her dark curls damp from the icy wind, her eyes wide as she looked around the glowing room that smelled of fresh biscuits and sizzling bacon. If you believe in kindness and second chances, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to KindnessLoom. Elena had walked nearly 2 miles that morning after the old van she slept in wouldn't start again. It wasn't truly a home, but it was all she had left after losing her job at a senior facility and then her apartment. She came inside not to eat, not to order, but simply to thaw their shaking hands and sit where warmth still existed in the world. She led Nora to the farthest booth, near the window where the cold air still seeped through the cracks, hoping no one would notice her. She looked down at her pocket. 4 coins, not even enough for coffee. She prayed no one would ask her to leave before Nora's fingers stopped trembling. Nora pressed her cheek against her arm, still smiling with that innocent wonder only children can hold after life has already taken too much from them. The waitress was rushing between tables, barely looking their way, and for a moment Elena felt invisible. Invisible was good. Invisible meant safe. Nora stared at a plate a few tables away, a plate filled with pancakes, syrup glistening like gold. Her hunger was so loud it almost had a voice. Across the diner sat a man who did not belong to the rhythm of that quiet town. His name was Jacob Wilder, tall, put together, early 40s, with a neat coat and a face that looked like someone who once knew joy but hadn't felt it in a very long time. For the past year, Jacob had eaten his breakfast alone in silence, ever since his wife passed away in a sudden storm-related accident. Their house was still filled with untouched furniture and framed photos he couldn't bear to move. He came to the diner not because he needed food, but because silence had started sounding like grief. He noticed Nora first. Not because the child was smiling, but because she wasn't. Nora was quietly staring at Jacob's breakfast with a hunger too deep for a child that small. Elena gently touched her daughter's shoulder, and they rose to leave, as if escaping before eyes could judge her. But Jacob saw them. He noticed the fraying edges of Elena's coat, the trembling of her fingers, and the way she held Nora as if holding her together was her only remaining strength. Without hesitation, Jacob waved the waitress over and asked for 2 extra plates. Elena reached the door, hoping they could slip away. But the waitress called out, "Ma'am, the gentleman over there said breakfast is taken care of if you'd like to stay." Elena froze, her face flushed with shame, with pride, with fear of pity. But Nora tugged her hand, softly, hopefully, and she slowly turned back. Jacob gave her a gentle nod, not asking anything, not staring, just offering a moment of peace. Nora's eyes lit up when a plate of warm pancakes was set in front of her. One small giggle left her lips, the sound of childhood returning. Elena whispered thank you, though her voice cracked halfway through. She turned her face toward the window, wiping a tear as quietly as she could. Jacob did not speak. He simply watched Nora eat. Small bites, big delight, and something inside him thawed. His memory drifted to his late wife, Hannah, who believed kindness was a responsibility, not an option. She never let anyone leave their doorstep cold. She once said, "Sometimes the smallest thing is the miracle someone prayed for." When the meal ended, Elena tried to offer her coins, shaking as she did. Jacob quietly shook his head. It was already paid. They stepped outside and Jacob saw her van. Rusting, dented, sleeping more than it ran. "May I help?" he asked softly. Elena hesitated, embarrassed. But when the engine failed again, she nodded. Jacob worked silently, sleeves rolled up, breath fogging in the cold air. When the van finally sputtered back to life, Nora clapped her little hands in excitement, the sound echoing like victory. Elena smiled, a fragile smile that looked like something she hadn't worn in months. Before Jacob stepped away, he wrote something on a folded receipt and handed it to her. "If you ever need anything," he said. Later that night, freezing rain hammered the van's windows. Nora coughed softly in her sleep. The thin blanket wasn't enough. The wind howled through the cracked seals of the door. Elena opened her palm and looked at the note. She didn't know why her hands dialed the number. Desperation, fear, hope. Jacob answered before the second ring. Within an hour, he stood beside the van with an umbrella and 2 bags of groceries. He didn't ask what happened. He didn't ask why she hadn't asked sooner. "You shouldn't be here tonight," he said gently. He took them to a small guest cottage behind his family's old farmhouse. It smelled like freshly baked bread and warm wood polish. Nora fell asleep under clean blankets, her breathing calm. Elena sat beside her, tears slipping quietly down her face. Not from pain this time, but from relief. For the first time in weeks, she slept. From that moment, their lives intertwined. Days turned into weeks. Jacob repaired her van fully. Elena cleaned the cottage, helped around the farmhouse, folded laundry, left fresh coffee in the mornings. Nora stuck drawings on Jacob's fridge, stick figures holding balloons. Jacob began to smile again. Spring arrived gently. Trees bloomed. Laughter returned to the farmhouse halls. Nora started calling him Uncle Jake. And sometimes when sunlight hit Elena's face just right, Jacob saw not her struggle, but her strength. Eventually, Elena found work at a nearby daycare center. She stood taller, hopeful again. One evening, Jacob walked in to find Nora and Elena baking cookies together, flour on their sleeves, warmth in the air. When Nora announced, "Mommy says we're staying forever," Elena froze with embarrassment, but Jacob smiled. "I'd like that," he said. They returned to the same diner. Same booth, same glowing lights, but everything was different now. Nora laughed freely. Elena smiled without hiding. And Jacob's heart, once fractured, felt whole. If this story touched your heart, please like, comment, and share it with someone who needs hope right now. Tell us in the comments which moment of this story moved you the most. Because sometimes God answers through people. And sometimes one act of compassion becomes the beginning of an entirely new life.